Millionaire Arthur Blackwood, having decided to take a holiday to please his family, was eagerly awaiting a reunion with his beloved daughter Lily. He was holding new lightweight titanium crutches, painted in her favorite color. But instead of a joyful greeting, a strange, muffled groan came from the living room. Arthur rushed to the source of the sound and froze in the doorway. The scene before him was like something out of his worst nightmare. His wife, Evelyn, her face contorted with rage, towered over Lily, who lay sprawled on the floor trying to cover herself with her arms. Evelyn lunged forward and kicked Lily hard in the side. "You don't understand," Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with restrained rage. "That helpless cripple has done it again. Several years ago, after the tragic death of his first wife, Sarah, Arthur's life fell apart. Having lost not only the woman he loved, but also his support, he fell into a deep depression. His only consolation was little Lily, who was struggling to cope with the grief of losing her mother while also battling a rare disease that had affected her spinal cord. The disease was incurable, and with each passing year, Lily's horizons narrowed, her world increasingly confined to the walls of the mansion, and movement became more and more difficult, requiring her to use crutches constantly. Arthur was devastated, but for her sake, he had to be strong. Arthur's anger erupted like a volcano. "Evelyn, what are you doing?" His cry echoed through the living room, filling it with anxiety. Lily, her face wet with tears, looked up at her father in fear. Arthur, forgetting everything, rushed to her. "Lily, are you hurt?" His voice sounded like a mixture of anger and fear. He gently picked up his daughter and held her close. Evelyn, as if only now realizing what had happened, tried to justify herself. "Arthur, it's not what you think. She broke everything again." She pointed to the scattered parts of a complex mechanism on the floor, but Arthur paid no attention. His gaze was fixed on Evelyn, and the warmth that had filled his heart just a moment ago had now frozen, turning into cold stone. This was no ordinary argument. It was cruelty, and he couldn't understand what had led to such a sudden change. Evelyn was a close friend of Sarah's, although Arthur was not particularly familiar with her. She gave the impression of an elegant and intelligent woman who seemed to understand his suffering like no one else. Evelyn knew how to find the right words to comfort Lily and showed her a kindness that Arthur himself could not give. Her presence was like an oasis in their devastated hearts. At first, Arthur did not consider her as a potential wife, but over time, watching her interact with Lily and help her cope with her grief, he began to see hope in her. A year and a half after Sarah's death, they got married. The marriage seemed flawless. Evelyn got along wonderfully with Lily, who seemed to accept her as her own mother, and Arthur finally found the peace he had longed for. But today, that appearance of happiness collapsed instantly like a house of cards built on deception. Arthur hugged Lily tightly. Feeling her tremble, he pulled away from Evelyn, who was still trying to speak. "I don't want to hear anything else," he said sharply. "Go away." Evelyn, her face white with anger and horror, obediently left, not daring to argue. Arthur gently sat Lily down on the sofa and brought her some water. "Lily, what happened?" he asked, trying to hide the emotion in his voice. "Dad, it's not like that," Lily began, but her speech was interrupted by another fit of sobbing. "It's all my fault. I lost Mum's gift, and Evelyn felt very sorry about it. Arthur fell to his knees in front of his daughter. He was tormented by his lack of understanding. Mum's gift? Which one, Lily? He tried to catch some kind of response in her eyes, but she turned away, hiding her face. His heart was breaking with pain. What did she mean by those words? Why was she defending Evelyn, who had just caused her suffering? How could Evelyn, whom he considered a savior, turn out to be a monster? And Lily's words seemed to hint at an even more frightening and mysterious truth. Arthur looked at his daughter, and for the first time in a long time, felt not the power of a millionaire, not the confidence of a powerful businessman, but only the helplessness of a father who needed to protect his child at any cost. And he understood that to do so, he would have to reveal all the secrets that the past had kept within him. Arthur sat with Lily on the sofa until her breathing calmed down and her tears subsided, turning into rare, quiet sighs. He covered her with a blanket and kissed her gently on the forehead. His chest still ached from what he had been through. After making sure his daughter was all right, he got up and headed for Evelyn's study, a room he had never entered without permission. He was sure that the answers to his questions lay behind that door. The office was immaculately tidy. A neatly stacked pile of books lay on the polished desk, and folders with documents were arranged alphabetically, as if on command. There were no signs of any recent emotional outbursts. Arthur approached the table and began to examine it. Among the financial reports and business correspondence, his gaze fell on a small, tightly sealed folder with no labels. Deep down, Arthur felt that it might hold the answers to his questions. Inside, he found several documents. The list he discovered contained not just names, but the surnames of well-known scientists and biologists, many of whom, like Evelyn's late father, Professor Martin Grace, were involved in similar fields of research. Among them, Arthur read the name of Dr. Adam Ross, an old friend of Sarah's. Each name was accompanied by a mysterious date and a brief note: disappeared or deceased. Among other documents was a court report compiled several years before he met Evelyn. It described a case of unlawful dismissal and leakage of confidential information from a large pharmaceutical company, Phoenix Bio. The report mentioned Professor Martin Grace, who, according to the document, was dismissed for attempting to remove valuable scientific materials from the company that, in his words, had the potential to save the lives of many people. Arthur recalled Evelyn's words that her father had died in a car accident. However, this contradicted the information he had read. The third document was the most frightening. It was an observation report detailing his own life, his every move, every meeting, even his conversation with Lily. The document was dated just a few days ago. Arthur was overcome with fear, cold sweat covering his forehead. His life was under scrutiny. Who could be behind this? Evelyn? But then why did she treat Lily so cruelly if she herself was a victim? Suddenly, footsteps were heard in the corridor, and Arthur quickly hid the documents. Evelyn entered the doorway, her face contorted with confusion and fear. "Arthur, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," she whispered, her voice quiet, almost pleading. Arthur couldn't believe her, having just witnessed her cruelty. "Explain yourself," he said, staring into her eyes. Evelyn looked away, her lips trembling. "I can't." "You wouldn't understand anyway," she whispered. Arthur took a step closer. "Is this related to your father? To his activities?" he asked, his voice hardening. Evelyn flinched, her eyes widening in surprise. "How did you find out?" Arthur sensed that she was hiding something. To get the truth out of her, he decided to change his tactics and feign indifference. "It doesn't matter," he said. "I just want to understand why you're doing this to Lily. Why does she say it has to do with Mummy's gift? What gift is that?" Evelyn froze for a moment. Then her face changed, taking on a somber and determined expression. "You can't understand," she whispered, looking right through Arthur. "I'm doing this to protect her. To protect her from those who took my father away and who could have destroyed Sarah. I have to be strong, even if it makes me a monster in your eyes." Arthur was stunned by her words. From whom? He couldn't grasp the meaning, what trap they had fallen into. Arthur looked at Evelyn again, and in her eyes he saw not malice, but deep, agonizing pain. For the first time it occurred to him that his wife might not be a villain, but a captive, trapped in a web he couldn't see. He read the documents in his hands, and his thoughts spun in a frenzied whirlwind. What was really going on in this house when he was away? What secrets did Evelyn harbor, and what was she trying so desperately to protect? How could his late wife's gift be so significant as to cause such cruelty? Arthur realized that he needed to investigate the situation more deeply to uncover the truth. With a heavy heart, Arthur left Evelyn's study, leaving her confused. He couldn't grasp the essence of what was happening, but one thing was clear. His wife was not who he thought she was. Her words about protection and monster sounded so sincere, yet they still couldn't explain her cruelty. And what about Lily? Why did she defend Evelyn so stubbornly? Upon returning to the living room, Arthur found Lily sitting on the sofa, still clutching the old blanket tightly in her hands. On the floor next to her lay the scattered pieces that Evelyn had mentioned. Arthur sat down next to his daughter, and gently touching one of the pieces, realized that it was part of some kind of mechanism made of precious metal, with an unrecognizable logo engraved on it. "Lily, what is this?" he asked gently. "It's part of Mummy's present," Lily whispered. "Evelyn always kept it safe. She promised to put it together when I got better." Arthur frowned. "But Evelyn said you broke it." Lily looked down, embarrassed. "I was just curious to see what was inside. I hadn't seen it in so long, and it slipped out of my hands." Arthur sensed that Lily was hiding something. "Lily, is there something else?" he asked, looking intently into her eyes. What really happened? Lily finally met his gaze. "Dad, I don't know. Evelyn said it was dangerous, and that I shouldn't touch it until she was ready." His daughter's words added a new, unexpected twist to this confusing story. Dangerous? What kind of gift could pose such a threat? Arthur diligently gathered all the information he had. He understood that this gift was the key to solving the mystery, but where could he find the answers? The solution came naturally. He needed to talk to people. He needed someone who knew Sarah better than anyone else. His thoughts immediately turned to Dr. Adam Ross. Arthur remembered that Sarah had always trusted him and shared all her problems with him. He picked up the phone and dialed the familiar number. "Adam? Arthur Blackwood," he said, his voice tense. There was a sound of surprise on the other end of the line. "Arthur? It hasn't been that long since we last saw each other. How are you? How's Lily?" Arthur didn't think it was necessary to waste time on trivialities. "Adam, I need your help. Do you know anything about Evelyn? Was she a friend of Sarah's? Adam was taken aback. Arthur, it's complicated. I knew they knew each other, but I didn't realize their connection was so close. Sarah mentioned her, but always with a certain mystery. Mystery? Arthur repeated. Yes, as if there was some kind of unbreakable bond between them. I can't say what it was, but Sarah said that Evelyn saved her from some kind of danger. Adam's words only heightened Arthur's suspicions. Evelyn had indeed saved Sarah, but from what exactly? Arthur put down the phone, his heart pounding in his chest. He realized that everything he knew about Sarah, Evelyn, and his own life could be a deceptive mirage. He needed to find more facts to confirm the truth. The only trace of Sarah left was her old diary, which she had started keeping in her youth, and Arthur knew that all her experiences were recorded there. He quickly went up to the bedroom where her old things were kept and began rummaging through the drawers, sorting through letters, photographs, and yellowed notebooks. At the very bottom of the chest, he found it, a small leather diary that Sarah had always kept with her. Arthur felt his hands tremble as he opened it, anticipating that he was about to learn the whole truth. He immersed himself in reading, his eyes widening more and more with horror and surprise. Sarah described her friendship with Evelyn, how that friendship turned into jealousy on Evelyn's part, and then how the relationship between them changed dramatically. She wrote about some secret that bound them together forever, and finally, that Evelyn had given part of herself to save Sarah. Arthur couldn't understand. How could Evelyn have saved Sarah? How had she given part of herself? What secrets did these women keep? Arthur felt that he needed to find what Sarah called the gift in order to understand all these mysteries. He had to unravel the mystery of this enigmatic object, so important to Lily and Evelyn, and find out what really happened while he was away. The night passed in a fog for Arthur. He reread Sarah's diary over and over, hoping to find some clue. He saw how their friendship with Evelyn, once clouded by rivalry and jealousy, had unexpectedly turned into something deep, almost mysterious. Sarah wrote that Evelyn had sacrificed a part of herself to save Sarah. What did that mean? Arthur couldn't understand. Was it a metaphor or reality? The only thing that was clear was that his wife was not who she claimed to be, and what he had seen yesterday was only a small part of something much bigger. Conflicting feelings raged in his mind, anger and confusion. On the one hand, he couldn't forgive Evelyn for her cruelty towards Lily, but on the other, the information from Sarah's words and her diary pointed to a more complex, hidden truth. At sunrise, Arthur went downstairs. He found Evelyn in the kitchen. She looked exhausted, but her gaze was steady. The circles under her eyes were visible from a sleepless night, but there was no fear in them, only inexpressible pain and fatigue. "Where is it?" Arthur asked bluntly, placing an old yellowed photograph he had found in the diary on the table. It showed Sarah and Evelyn, and between them was the very same dark wood box encrusted with precious stones. A gift. "The one Lily mentioned," Arthur said, his voice as cold as the morning mist. Evelyn looked away for a second, then her face froze like a statue. "I don't know where it is," she replied, but her words sounded insincere. Arthur didn't believe her. "Evelyn, don't lie to me. I saw you angrily scolding Lily for losing it, and I'm sure it wasn't just an accident. I want to understand what this thing is and why it's so important to you." Evelyn was silent. Her eyes moistened, but no tears fell. She was like a frozen statue balancing on the edge of a precipice. "I can't tell you. It's too dangerous," she whispered barely audibly. Arthur was overcome with rage again. He took a step forward and squeezed her hand. "Dangerous for whom? For me? For Lily? What are you hiding?" Evelyn pulled away sharply. "I can't tell you. Just trust me. I'm protecting you. That's all you need to know." Arthur realized he would get nothing more out of her. The only way to find out the truth was to find the box himself. He started in the living room, where he found the scattered pieces left by Lily. He combed through every corner, every crevice, even turned over the sofa and looked under the carpet. But to no avail. He repeated the process in Evelyn's study, but still couldn't find the box. Evelyn had obviously hidden it in a very secure place. But where exactly? Arthur racked his brains for all the possible options. The basement, the safe, or maybe something else. His thoughts raced at incredible speed. Suddenly, Arthur remembered the small storage room in the bedroom where Sarah used to keep her old things. This place had not been used for a long time after she left, and it seemed that Evelyn had never looked in there. Perhaps what he was looking for was kept there. Arthur headed for the storage room, his heart beating faster with excitement. The door creaked, and he breathed in the scent of dust and long-forgotten memories. He began to look through the boxes, sorting through yellowed books and toys left over from childhood. At the very bottom of a huge old chest, under a pile of letters and yellowed blankets, his hand stumbled upon something hard and smooth. Pulling it out, Arthur recognized it. It was the box that had flashed in the photograph. Cold and heavy in his hands, it radiated a mysterious, almost magical glow. It was locked, but Arthur noticed a tiny, barely noticeable secret mechanism on its surface. Pressing it, he heard a slight click, and the box opened easily. Inside, he found a miniature flash drive and a letter, yellowed with age, addressed to him personally. His heart sank. He felt that he was on the verge of discovering the secret that connected the three women, and he knew that this secret would change his destiny forever. Arthur, his hands trembling, unfolded the yellowed sheet. The letter was from Sarah, but her handwriting was unusually sharp, as if scribbled in haste and despair. "My dear Arthur," the message began, "if you are reading this, it means that Evelyn was unable to dissuade you. She did everything she could. Please do not blame her for what you saw. She saved me. You always thought my illness was hopeless, but that's not entirely true. Evelyn and her father created a cure. It was dangerous, but it worked. Evelyn risked everything to get it for me. She gave up part of her essence, her blood, her secrets, to save my life. She knew that people would be after this remedy, so she hid it to keep it out of the wrong hands. She never wanted you to face the truth because it was too risky. But now that I'm gone, she's alone. She will protect Lily at all costs because she's the only one who knows how to control them. Please trust her. She's not our enemy. She's our last remaining friend." Arthur was in shock. Evelyn gave part of herself to save Sarah? It seemed impossible. But at the same time, it explained her strange behavior. Evelyn's cruelty towards Lily was apparently only part of a complex and dangerous strategy. She didn't let Lily touch the gift because it wasn't just a thing, but something much more significant. A terrible thought began to form in Arthur's mind. Evelyn had kicked Lily not out of hatred, but out of fear of something greater. She wanted to instill fear of this object in Lily so that she would never touch it, to protect her. Arthur stared at the box. Now he realized that it contained not just a gift, but the coveted key to a secret that could save or destroy everything. Taking the flash drive from inside the box, he inserted it into his laptop. What other secrets did this gift hold? He was ready to unravel them. A day through Evelyn's eyes. Evelyn woke up in a panic. In the morning, her insignificant mind would not give her peace. Her heart was pounding with fear, which she diligently hid from everyone. She knew that her husband Arthur would be back soon, and she had to be ready. She double-checked that all the elements of the box were in place, because Lily could lose them at any moment, and that would have terrible consequences. Evelyn felt their gaze on her with every glance, every rustle. She knew that Phoenix Bio would not back down. They craved the nanovirus, and they were prepared to commit any crime to get it. She had to protect Lily. She had to make her strong, teach her to fear this object so that Lily would never touch it. To save her, Evelyn's heart sank as if it had fallen into an abyss when she heard Lily scream. It had happened. Lily had lost one of the pieces. Evelyn rushed to her without a moment's hesitation. Horror flashed in her eyes when she saw Lily playing with the pieces that were supposed to be hidden. Anger and fear welled up in Evelyn's chest. She had to do everything differently. She had to instill fear in Lily. Seeing Lily playing with the pieces, she realized there was no time to think. She had to act decisively. She took Lily by the hand and, in a fit of fear, kicked her. It was not a kick out of anger. It was a desperate, hopeless gesture. When she met Arthur, her heart sank with fear. She knew that he would not share her feelings, that he would see her only as a monster. Her attempts to explain something with words were in vain. They simply would not come out of her mouth. She was so frightened that she realized silence was the only way out. After all, if she told the truth, Arthur would be in danger. She had to protect him, and Lily too. Arthur's departure brought Evelyn relief. She had done everything she could. She was strong, she had endured, and she was ready for the battle ahead. Seeing Lily asleep, her eyes filled with nothing but love, Evelyn realized that all her actions had been aimed at protecting her. She was ready for this, ready for any battle, because she was strong and would always be with Lily forever. Inserting the flash drive into his laptop, Arthur saw a window with a video recording on the screen. The video started with a noise, and then Sarah appeared on the screen. She looked tired and pale, but her eyes burned with determination. "Arthur," she said, her voice barely audible but clear, "if you're seeing this, it means I'm no longer here. I had to do it. Evelyn and we created something incredible. It's not a normal medicine. It's a nanovirus that can cure any disease, restore tissue, including damaged spinal cord." Arthur's heart sank. Lily, that meant his little girl had a chance. A chance that she could walk again. Evelyn's father, Professor Martin Grace, and I worked secretly on this project. He was an outstanding scientist, but his life was cut short when he refused to hand over his research to the large pharmaceutical company Phoenix Bio. I knew they would stop at nothing to get their hands on his creation, so I hid it. The complete formula is encrypted and divided into fragments. One of the fragments is stored on this flash drive, and the other is integrated into my DNA. The only one who can activate it is Evelyn. She's not just my friend. She's the only way to save the whole world. But I failed. Please trust her, Arthur. She's the only one who knows how to use its power." The video ended, the screen went blank, and Arthur was left in complete silence, his thoughts in disarray. The nanovirus. It was just unbelievable. And suddenly everything fell into place. Why Evelyn was so eager to protect the box, why she was so ruthless to Lily, why she hid everything from him so carefully. She wasn't just guarding a valuable item, she was guarding the key to salvation, the key that could save them all from those who had kidnapped her father and were now trying to take Sarah. Arthur realized that all his guesses had been in vain. Suddenly, there was a sharp ring at the door. Arthur ran to the window and saw two large men in dark clothes and masks. He immediately realized that these were no ordinary thieves. These were people who were looking for the nanovirus. He quickly grabbed the box, the flash drive and the letter, and headed for Lily. His main task now was to protect his family and make sure that the virus that could save his daughter did not fall into the wrong hands. His life had suddenly turned into a spy thriller, and he was the main character. He knew he had to act quickly if he wanted to save his family. Arthur held a flash drive and a box in his hands. The video with Sarah was still etched in his memory. The nanovirus, hope for Lily, and a deadly danger that had unceremoniously burst into their lives. Arthur hurried to the window and lifted the curtain. Two men in black suits stood on the porch like shadows. One of them calmly held something in his hand that clearly resembled a weapon with a silencer. It became clear to Arthur that these were not just random thugs. They were professionals, and their goal was the nanovirus. Arthur's heart sank, as if he had been thrown into an abyss. He had to protect his family. He rushed into the living room, where Evelyn was sitting on the sofa, hugging Lily. When she saw him, Evelyn's eyes widened with fear. "They're here," she whispered. "They've found us." Arthur nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. "I know," he said, "but I found the box. And I'm sure it contains what we need. And I know that you are not the enemy, but our only chance." Evelyn looked at him puzzled, but then her face took on a determined expression. "In that case, we need to leave immediately." Arthur grabbed his car keys and rushed to the black SUV, waiting for him in the garage. He knew that his car's armor was their only hope in this situation. Helping Evelyn and Lily into the car, Arthur got behind the wheel and, without wasting any time, started the engine. The moment the SUV pulled out of the garage, there was a loud bang and a bullet pierced the rear window without breaking it. He pressed the accelerator pedal, and the car sped onto the road, leaving behind the mansion that until recently had seemed to him a refuge, the safest place in the world. Arthur drove at top speed, not letting anything distract him. Evelyn and Lily were silent. Lily clung to her stepmother, while Evelyn, her eyes filled with tears, stared at the landscape rushing by. Finally, Arthur turned to her. "Who are they?" he asked. "Phoenix Bio," she replied, her voice hoarse. "The corporation that destroyed my father. They're after the nanovirus because it could destroy their pharmaceutical business, and they'll do anything to get it, either for their own purposes or to destroy it." Arthur realized his role. He was just a pawn in this game. But now that he knew the rules, he wasn't going to give up. He saw his wife as a true heroine who risked everything to save him and their daughter, and now he had a duty to protect her. At that moment, a black saloon car pulled up alongside their car. Arthur glanced in the rear-view mirror. "We're being followed," Arthur said tensely. "What should we do?" Evelyn looked at him, her eyes burning with determination. "We have one option, to hide. But it's risky. My father's old laboratory is the perfect place. They'll never think to look for us there. But there's no one there." Arthur nodded, realizing they had no other choice. Trusting Evelyn was the only thing he could do, and he had to steel himself for the worst outcome. Off the motorway, onto a narrow dirt road, they sped into the unknown. Arthur didn't know what lay ahead, but his heart was ready for anything. Arthur's black SUV raced along the bumpy country road, leaving a trail of dust behind it. In the rear-view mirror, Arthur noticed the headlights of one of the pursuing cars getting closer and closer. He glanced at Evelyn, who was holding the sleeping Lily in her arms and staring intently into the darkness. Her face was white with excitement, but her eyes showed her determination. "Turn here," she said loudly, pointing to a narrow dirt road disappearing into the thick forest. Arthur obediently turned, and the car's wheels squealed on the wet, dewy grass. After a few minutes, the chase ended. They were safe, but not for long. They drove along the forest road for another 20 minutes or so until they stopped in front of a dilapidated, abandoned warehouse. The building looked abandoned, with the roof caved in places, moss growing on the walls, and a rusty gate warped by time. Despite this, Evelyn seemed confident in her direction. She led them out of the car, and they walked hand in hand towards the building. Evelyn found a small lever on the wall, disguised as a bush, and pulled it. Suddenly, there was a loud creaking sound, and the wall swung open, revealing a secret passage. Inside was a small, fully furnished room. There was a sofa, a table, and most importantly, a computer and medical equipment. This was a secret refuge that Martin Grace had created for himself and his family in case his research caused problems. Evelyn pointed to one of the doors. "This is my father's laboratory," she explained. "We will find shelter here." Arthur felt his anxiety finally lift. They were safe, at least for the time being. Settling down comfortably, Lily woke up and hugged Evelyn. "Mum, what happened?" she asked quietly. Evelyn smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "Everything is fine, dear. We're just playing a very important game. But it will be over soon," she replied. Arthur watched them, and a glimmer of hope lit up in his heart. Perhaps they would be able to overcome all difficulties. While Lily slept peacefully on the sofa, Arthur and Evelyn sat down at the computer. Evelyn opened an archive file called Project Phoenix, and information about the nanovirus appeared on the screen. She told Arthur that this virus was created based on her genetic material and had the unique ability to cure any disease, including Lily's. However, a special code known only to her and Sarah was required to activate the nanovirus. It was this code that was Sarah's gift, which she had so carefully hidden from everyone. "My father and I worked on this project," Evelyn shared, "but after he refused to hand it over to Phoenix Bio, he was killed. I managed to escape, taking with me only a fragment of information and a vow from my father and Sarah to continue what they had started. I assumed they would come after me, but when I met you and Lily, it became clear that they would hunt you down too. Because of this, I forced Sarah to hide the valuable artifact and tried to protect Lily from danger. I needed to make her strong. I knew they might try to use this against me. It hurt me terribly to see her suffer, but I had no choice. Evelyn's words were like a cold shower for Arthur. He realized that all his suspicions were unfounded. His wife was not a villain, but a heroine. Her harshness was not a manifestation of hatred, but a desperate defense of both of them. Now he knew that they needed to be together, to stand up to those who were trying to use her for their own selfish purposes. Looking at Evelyn, Arthur saw not anger in his eyes, but only love and deep respect. After a detailed conversation with Evelyn, Arthur saw the light. He was struck by the realization of the depth of his mistake. Evelyn was not a villain, but a heroine who had risked her own life for them without hesitation. Arthur's anger was replaced by sincere respect and love. He embraced her, and at that moment an unbreakable bond formed between them, as if they had finally become a real family. "We must finish what we started," Arthur said, staring at the screen with information about the nanovirus. "We must continue what your father and Sarah began." Evelyn nodded, but fear still lingered in her heart. They spent several hours studying the information about the nanovirus. The discovery was truly revolutionary, but its activation was a complex and dangerous task. To activate the virus, they needed a sample of Sarah's DNA. Arthur remembered that they still had a strand of her hair, which he had carefully stored in a safe. Realizing that they now had to return home, he concluded that this return was necessary. Back at the mansion, Arthur drove carefully, keeping his eyes on the rear-view mirror. Finally, they arrived home. Arthur got out of the car while Evelyn and Lily remained inside. Before entering, he had to make sure they were safe. Opening the door, he went inside. A deadly silence enveloped him. Arthur went upstairs to his study. Inside, chaos reigned. Folders were scattered everywhere. Drawers were turned upside down. Arthur's heart sank with horror. They had been here, those very people. He rushed to the safe and entered the code. The safe opened, and he took out a small wooden box containing a lock of Sarah's hair. Just as he was about to leave, a man he had known since childhood appeared in the doorway. It was Damien Thorne, his loyal friend and business partner, but there was no warmth in his eyes, only a cold, calculating gleam. "Arthur, you are incredibly naive," Damien said in a cool, icy voice. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you not realize that I knew about the nanovirus?" Arthur was stunned. "Damien, you were behind Phoenix Bio?" Damien laughed. "I am Phoenix Bio. From the very beginning, I was its creator. I killed Evelyn's father, and I killed Sarah. She was too ignorant to realize that her invention could make me the richest man in the world. And now I'm going to kill you too, and take what is rightfully mine." Arthur's world was falling apart. His best friend, his loyal comrade, turned out to be a traitor. He was the one who ruined his life. Arthur stepped back, clutching the box with Sarah's hair in his hand. A firm determination to fight was born in his heart. He had to protect his family, and this was his main battle. His gaze fell on Damien, whose eyes had changed from fear to pure, cold rage. Rage and a sense of betrayal gripped Arthur's heart in the devastated office. Damien Thorne, whom he had considered a loyal friend, turned out to be the embodiment of evil. Arthur clutched the wooden box with Sarah's lock of hair in his hand, the only thread connecting him to the nanovirus that could save Lily. Damien stood in the doorway, His face contorted into a cold, contemptuous smile. "You thought you could play games with me, Arthur?" Damien whispered, his voice sounding like steel despite the silence. "I've been preparing for this for many years. I killed Evelyn's father because his idealism was getting in my way. He wanted to give this to the world, but I want to own it. I eliminated Sarah because she was too close to the solution. She knew too much. She left the key with Evelyn, and I knew that you would find it sooner or later, but I didn't anticipate that you would be naive enough to bring this box right to me. You yourself gave me what I had been searching for so long." Damien's 2 bodyguards suddenly appeared in the office, armed and ready for a fight. Arthur realized there was no way out. He was trapped. Any attempt to retreat was futile. The bodyguards instantly surrounded him. Damien approached, his eyes gleaming with greed. "Give me the box, Arthur," he growled. "Otherwise I'll take it, and then I'll come for your daughter. I have people waiting for her." Arthur's heart sank as if it had fallen into an abyss. He couldn't risk Lily. The box he threw on the floor shattered into pieces. Damien cried out in anger, "What have you done?" Arthur smiled and replied, "Did you think I would just give it to you? Now you'll get nothing." Damien picked up a strand of hair from the floor and whispered viciously, "You'll regret this, Arthur. You'll regret it." Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and a man burst through the window. It was Adam Ross, an old acquaintance of Sarah's, wearing a bulletproof vest and armed with a pistol. He opened fire on one of the guards, who immediately fell to the floor. Damien, shocked by what was happening, exclaimed, "Adam, are you involved in this too?" "I've always been involved," Adam replied firmly. "I was Sarah's friend. I knew about her research, and I knew that you people at Phoenix Bio would come after her." Evelyn suddenly burst into the room, the gun she had taken from one of the guards in her hand. She shot the guard who was trying to attack Adam, and together they stood up to defend Arthur. Damien, realizing that his plan was failing, tried to escape, but Arthur rushed after him, determined not to let him go. His eyes burned with fighting spirit, and he was confident of victory, because now he had allies. Arthur was ready to fight for his family, for his beloved wife and daughter, and for the nanovirus that could save the world. A real battle ensued in the office. Evelyn, despite her lack of experience, acted with surprising determination and precision, firing accurately with the pistol she had managed to take from the guard. Adam Ross, a former military medic, demonstrated his mastery of martial arts, fighting off Damien's mercenaries. Arthur, drawing on his many years of experience in management, quickly assessed the situation and realized that their main task was not to eliminate Damien, but to capture him alive. Only he held the key to unlocking all the secrets of Phoenix Bio. Seeing that his plan was doomed, Damien tried to escape. He rushed to the window, but Arthur, without wasting a second, rushed after him. He grabbed Damien by the leg, and they both crashed to the floor. Damien struggled, trying to break free, but Arthur was stronger. He pinned him to the floor and, finding handcuffs on one of the guard's belts, cuffed Damien. Damien's resistance was broken, his mercenaries were neutralized, and the battle ended with Damien's capture. Adam Ross approached Arthur, his gaze filled with respect. "You're a real hero, Arthur," he said. "I believed you could do it." Arthur met his gaze. "Adam, why are you here? How did you know about them?" Adam replied with a smile. "I never stopped searching for the truth about Sarah and Professor Grace's deaths. I felt that they were being hunted, that they were hiding something. And when you called, I knew something was wrong. I was watching you and was ready for this moment. I was ready to fight for Sarah. Suddenly, Lily entered the room. Her eyes fell on her father, Adam and Evelyn, and then on Damien. She had no idea about his betrayal, but he had a sinister aura about him. Lily rushed to Arthur and hugged him tightly. "Dad, I was so scared," she whispered. Arthur held her close, reassuring her. "It's okay, Lily. It's okay." Adam Ross contacted the police, and soon law enforcement arrived at the scene. Damien and his team were arrested. Arthur told them everything he knew in detail, showing them the box, the flash drive, and the letter. The police were shocked, but took his words seriously. Damien was taken into custody and charged with murder, fraud, and other crimes. Arthur, Evelyn, and Lily felt safe, but they understood that their struggle was not over yet. They had to finish the work that Evelyn and her father had started. They had to use the nanovirus to save the world. The mansion was empty when the police took Damien and his mercenaries away. The silence that finally reigned in the house was not one of calm, but of heavy desolation after all they had been through. Arthur, Evelyn, and Lily sat in the living room. Lily, snuggled up to Evelyn, finally fell asleep, holding an old, worn box in her hands, forgetting about her crutches. The doubt in Arthur's eyes disappeared. He saw in Evelyn not a cold stepmother, but a strong, desperately loving woman who was prepared to do anything to protect her family. He slowly approached her and hugged her. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I was wrong not to trust you." Evelyn responded with a smile of relief. "Everything will be fine, Arthur. We're together and we'll get through this." Adam Ross, standing nearby, watched them tenderly. "We all need to be together," he said, "and we must finish what Sarah and Martin started. The nanovirus is our only chance to save Lily." Arthur nodded, and now they had all the necessary components: the box, the flash drive, Sarah's letter, and most importantly, Evelyn, who knew how to use the virus. They gathered in the office where a fierce battle had recently taken place, and Arthur inserted the flash drive into his computer. A video appeared on the monitor showing Sarah and Professor Grace demonstrating how the nanovirus worked. "The virus we have developed is more than just a medicine," Sarah said. "It is a regenerative agent capable of repairing damaged tissue. However, Evelyn's genetic code is needed to activate it, as her DNA is the key to this healing." Arthur, Evelyn, and Adam Ross looked at each other, understanding what had to be done. Their only chance to save Lily was the nanovirus. Adam said he had access to a laboratory where they could create it. It was Sarah's former laboratory, closed after her departure, but Adam, as her friend, had retained access to it. They decided not to waste any time and to go there to get to work. Leaving the mansion, Lily, who had been asleep all this time, woke up and looked at Evelyn, smiling at her. "Mom, how are we going to live now?" she asked. Evelyn responded with a smile, the fear in her eyes disappearing, leaving only hope. "We will save the world, my dear, and we will cure you," she said. Lily, unaware of the nanovirus, did not understand her words, but the warmth in her mother's voice gave her confidence that everything would be fine. Sarah's laboratory was located far from the hustle and bustle of the city, tucked away in a quiet and secluded place, hidden from prying eyes. The old, unassuming building, once a research center, was now abandoned. Arthur, Evelyn, Lily, and Adam Ross arrived there late in the evening. The surrounding darkness and all-encompassing silence created an oppressive atmosphere. Arthur felt Lily squeeze his hand tightly. "Dad, I'm scared," she whispered. "Don't be afraid, Lily," Arthur reassured her. "We'll be together." Adam Ross used a special key to open the door. They went inside. The air was damp and cool. Darkness enveloped the room, but Adam quickly found the light switch. The light came on, and they saw an old but well-equipped laboratory. There were flasks, test tubes, and microscopes on the tables. Everything suggested that time had stood still here. "Sarah and Martin worked here," Adam said admiringly. "They were truly brilliant." Evelyn walked over to one of the tables and touched an old flask, her face clouded with sadness. "My father, he was so happy working on this," she whispered softly. Arthur walked over to her and hugged her. "He would be proud of you," he said. "You continued his work." Anita carefully laid Lily on the sofa, after which she and Arthur began preparing the laboratory for work. Adam Ross explained that to synthesize the nanovirus, they would need to take Evelyn's blood and place it in a special device. Then, according to him, they would need to combine this sample with the data stored on the flash drive that Arthur had found in the old box. "The process is very complicated," Adam remarked, "but we have no alternative." "It's the only way to save Lily." Without hesitation, Evelyn held out her arm to Adam. He carefully took a blood sample from her and then inserted it into the complex equipment. The process began, and Evelyn and Arthur watched anxiously as graphs and diagrams unfolded before them on the screen. The tension in the air was almost palpable. Finally, the screen lit up and displayed the words, "Process complete." Arthur, Evelyn, and Adam Ross felt a wave of relief wash over them. They had realized their dream. They had created a nanovirus. All that remained was to test its effectiveness. Adam took a sample of the virus and held it up to a microscope. Seeing it under magnification, a look of surprise flashed across his face. "Unbelievable," he whispered. "It really works." Arthur and Evelyn exchanged glances, their eyes filled with anticipation of a miracle. Now they had to use it to save Lily. It was their only hope. Adam Ross, without taking his eyes off the microscope eyepiece, watched thousands of tiny glowing dots dancing on the screen connected to it. It was a nanovirus, alive, mobile, pulsing with energy. "It's ready," Adam whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "Unbelievable! It really can save her." Evelyn approached him, her eyes glistening with tears. "We have to do this," she whispered. "We have to use it." Arthur, standing next to Lily, nodded in agreement. "We're ready." Lily watched them, feeling a rush of excitement. Not knowing exactly what was happening, she trusted her father and Evelyn unconditionally. Adam Ross prepared the injection, explaining that the nanovirus would act like an army of microscopic doctors, seeking out and repairing damaged cells in the patient's spinal cord. The procedure was simple, but high risk. "There is a chance that her body will reject it," Adam said. "But this is our only option. Without it, her condition will inevitably deteriorate." Evelyn lifted Lily into her arms and gently laid her on the table. The girl was frightened, but did not try to pull away. "Everything will be fine, sweetheart," Evelyn whispered. "You'll be running again soon." Arthur took Lily's hand, and Adam Ross, speaking gentle words of reassurance, administered the injection. The procedure was quick and painless. Then they waited in silence, time dragging on as if it were an eternity. Finally, Lily opened her eyes. She looked at her legs, then at Arthur and Evelyn, and her face reflected her amazement. I can feel my legs," she whispered barely audibly. Arthur and Evelyn could not hide their surprise. "Try to stand up," Adam suggested, his words sounding confident of success. Lily slowly stood up without using her crutches. She took a step, then another, and tears of joy filled her eyes. Fixing her gaze on Arthur and Evelyn, she rushed into their arms. "I can walk!" she exclaimed joyfully, her voice filled with happiness. Arthur and Evelyn hugged her, and in that moment, locked in an embrace, they felt that this was the happiest moment of their lives. In this victory, they saw everything: victory over Damien, victory over Phoenix Bio, and finally, victory over the disease itself. An indescribable happiness overwhelmed Arthur, Evelyn, and Lily. Within the walls of the laboratory, for the first time in a long time, Lily ran around the room, bursting with laughter and joy. Her crutches, which had been an integral part of her life for so long, now lay in the corner, forgotten and useless. For Arthur and Evelyn, it was truly the greatest miracle they had ever encountered. Their family was restored, and Lily was healthy again. But they understood that their struggle was not over yet. They needed to finish what Evelyn and her father had started. The world had to be saved with the help of the nanovirus, and they had to do it. Adam Ross emphasized that it could not be handed over to the government. He was convinced that the government could use it for its own interests, or that it could fall into the hands of those who would exploit it for personal gain. They came to the conclusion that it was necessary to create a foundation dedicated to treating people with the nanovirus for those who needed it. Arthur, with the support of his business contacts, created the Sarah and Martin Foundation, into which he invested billions of dollars. Then, together with Evelina, he began searching for people who needed help. Their first ward was a little boy who had the same disease as Lily. Arthur, Evelina, and Adam Ross performed the procedure, and within a few hours, the boy was able to walk. This success marked the beginning of their new, meaningful lives. Lily, having gained the ability to walk, decided to devote her life to helping children who, like her, suffered from this disease. She became the symbol of the Sarah and Martin Foundation, and her touching story resonated with millions of people around the world. Evelyn, once a stepmother, was now a real mother, and this filled her with happiness. She had found her purpose in this world and felt that her life had not been lived in vain. Arthur, a former millionaire once obsessed with business, underwent a metamorphosis. Now he was a loving father and husband who understood that the true value of life lay in family. The news of Damien Thorne's arrest and the exposure of his criminal activities instantly spread around the world. Newspapers were full of sensational headlines accusing the billionaire traitor of murdering his colleagues for his own gain. But even more shocking was the information about the foundation established by Arthur Blackwood. When the public learned about the existence of a nanovirus capable of curing incurable diseases and that his daughter Lily was the first patient to be successfully treated with this technology, the world was divided into two opposing camps. Some praised Arthur and Evelyn to the skies, calling them heroes and saviors of the world. They were nicknamed guardian angels and saviors of humanity. Their story became a source of hope for millions who had fallen into despair. However, there were also those who viewed their feat with distrust and apprehension. The scientific community and doctors were skeptical about the nanovirus, claiming that it could be dangerous and that its use could lead to unpredictable results. Religious leaders expressed the opinion that this was playing God, and that such actions could disrupt the natural order of things. Arthur and Evelyn did not seek fame. Their main goal was to help people. They held press conferences where they shared their plans and talked about how the nanovirus would be used for the good of society. They emphasized that they were not seeking financial gain and wanted to make it accessible to everyone. Their honesty and transparency won the trust of the public, turning them into symbols of hope and healing. While Damien Thorne languished in prison, he tried with all his might to delay the inevitable. Denying his guilt, his lawyers tried unsuccessfully to prove his insanity. However, Arthur and Evelyn, with the support of Adam Ross, gathered irrefutable evidence confirming his guilt. Damien was charged with murder, fraud, and other crimes. His empire collapsed, leaving him completely alone. Although Lily had won and healed, Arthur and Evelyn quickly realized that their triumph over Damien Thorne was only the beginning of a long battle. The publicity surrounding their victory attracted the attention not only of the public, but also of other powerful players in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries. The Sarah and Martin Foundation found itself at the center of targeted attacks that were not limited to newspaper articles, but also included carefully planned campaigns to discredit it. False information appeared in the media, allegedly from anonymous sources, about the instability of the nanovirus and its tendency to mutate. As a result, investigations were initiated by Phoenix Bio's competitors, who were eager to get their hands on the nanovirus formula. Arthur and Evelyn realized that their opponents were attacking on several fronts. One of these was the legal front, where Arthur had to invest huge sums of money in lawyers to fend off absurd lawsuits. Another front was cyberspace, where their servers were constantly subjected to hacker attacks. Evelyn, with her technical knowledge, managed to protect their information, but she understood that the protection would not last forever, and that sooner or later they would still manage to break through. At the same time, Adam Ross was conducting scientific research to prove the harmlessness of the nanovirus, but his results found no support. Feeling hopeless, they decided to seek help from an old friend of Sarah's, with whom Adam Ross had kept in touch, Professor Ethan Hawke. This outstanding biologist, who had once worked with Sarah and Martin, was renowned for his honesty and integrity. In the current situation, he was their only chance of salvation. Arthur and Evelyn headed to the remote research center where Professor Hawke worked. He greeted them with reserve, but after they revealed the whole truth to him, he was astonished. He agreed to help them, but on one condition: the nanovirus must be used not only for treatment, but also for other, broader purposes. Hawke saw it as a powerful tool in the fight against cancer, believing that this would be the most fitting way to honor the memory of Sarah and Martin. Arthur and Evelyn agreed. They realized that their mission went far beyond saving Lily, and that the fate of the entire world was at stake. At this time, a new enemy appeared in their lives. Even in prison, Damien Thorne did not break. He acted through his connections, recruiting new mercenaries to steal the nanovirus. His anger was a fire that consumed everything in its path, and his thirst for revenge knew no bounds. He understood that the nanovirus was the only key to his freedom, and he was willing to do anything to get it. Arthur and Evelyn realized that they would have to face not only public pressure and legal difficulties, but also real danger. The arrival of Professor Ethan Hawke was a real ray of hope for Arthur and Evelyn. His exceptional intellect and impeccable reputation in the scientific community were exactly what they needed in such a difficult situation. Hawke not only took on the development of the nanovirus, but also vigorously countered the false accusations published in the media. He published scientific articles in leading journals, providing detailed analysis that convincingly proved the stability and safety of the virus. His participation in the project dealt a serious blow to Phoenix Bio's competitors. Nevertheless, they did not stop. The next morning, during breakfast at the hideout, the silence was broken by a sharp, metallic sound. Arthur, always quick on his feet, instantly understood what it meant. "They're here," he whispered, his voice tense. Despite the arrest of their leader, the mercenaries loyal to Damien Thorne did not betray him. They surrounded the laboratory, trying to break in. Their professionalism was evident. They acted quickly and without the slightest hesitation. Arthur, relying on the skills he had acquired in his youth, managed to protect his family. He fought off the mercenaries while Evelyn, Ethan, and Lily hid in a secret room that Ethan had built for himself just in case of such a danger. The battle was bloody. Arthur was wounded, but did not give up. He fought for his family, for his daughter, for his wife. He understood that the nanovirus had to be saved, and he was willing to give his life for it. At that moment, Adam Ross, who had been watching their movements unnoticed, intervened. Accompanied by a group of former colleagues, he joined the fight against Damien's mercenaries. Thanks to their experience, the fighters quickly neutralized their opponents. After the battle, Arthur, wounded but alive, looked at Adam. "Thank you, my friend," he whispered. "You saved us." Adam responded with a smile. "I will always be there for you, Arthur. I gave Sarah my word that I would protect her legacy, and I will keep it." The police quickly arrived at the scene. Damien Thorne was charged with organizing the attack, and his case took on even greater significance. His empire collapsed, and he found himself alone. Arthur, Evelyn, Lily, Adam, and Ethan were in a safe place, but they knew they had to remain vigilant. After the battle with the mercenaries and the unraveling of Damien Thorne's secret, Arthur and his team realized that time was a precious resource that could not be wasted. Thanks to Adam Ross's connections, they discovered that Damien had another secret base where he kept his most valuable treasures, including duplicates of the nanovirus, and compromising information on high-ranking officials who supported him. This base was located in a remote location on top of a mountain and was well protected. It became his last refuge. Arthur, Evelyn, Adam, and Ethan came to a unanimous decision. They needed to infiltrate the base and destroy everything that could be used against them in the future. This was the final step necessary to ensure their own safety and the safety of the nanovirus. At night, they arrived at the building, which was surrounded by a high fence with CCTV cameras and guarded by security guards at every corner. However, Arthur, Adam, and Evelyn were prepared for this, with a well-thought-out plan that would give them the desired result. Adam and Ethan distracted the guards by staging a fake fire on the opposite side of the base, while Arthur and Evelyn relying on the skills they had acquired in their youth, broke in. They were sure that the nanovirus was stored in a safe, and their mission was to find it. Darkness and silence reigned inside. They moved cautiously, avoiding traps and laser sensors. The long-awaited safe, hidden behind a painting, was finally found. Arthur used his knowledge to open it. Inside, they found many vials of the nanovirus and documents proving that Damien Thorne was ready to sell it. Arthur and Evelyn began to destroy everything they could find, not wanting this dangerous information to fall into the wrong hands. Suddenly, Damien burst into the room, having somehow freed himself from prison thanks to his connections. "I anticipated your arrival," his angry voice rang out, "but you will achieve nothing." With the push of a button, he summoned his mercenaries, and a fierce battle ensued in the room. Arthur, Evelyn, Adam, and Ethan showed incredible resilience, fighting like true lions. They were ready for this. They had the strength, and most importantly, they were united. The mercenaries were defeated, but Damien Thorne was a serious threat. He grabbed Evelyn and held a gun to her head. "Give me the nanovirus, Arthur, or I'll kill her," he threatened. Arthur was desperate, not knowing what to do, but Evelyn, ready for any danger, kicked him, and he fell. Arthur instantly managed to grab the gun, and together with Evelyn, they immobilized Damien. At the end of the battle, Arthur, Evelyn, Adam, and Ethan stood over Damien. He surrendered, and they were victorious. All copies of the nanovirus were destroyed, and Damien was imprisoned, this time without the possibility of release. Arthur, Evelyn, Lily, Adam, and Ethan, having defeated Damien Thorne and his criminal organization, returned to their mansion. Tired but filled with a deep sense of satisfaction, they realized that their long and risky journey had finally come to an end. In the living room, bathed in the warm light of the setting sun, they felt true peace and security for the first time in a long time. The tension that had built up over months had disappeared, giving way to tranquility and hope. Lily, now able to walk, felt boundless happiness. She did not run around the house, but walked confidently and firmly, as if learning to move again. She stared at her legs, freed from crutches, and her eyes shone with radiant joy. Looking up, Lily approached Evelyn and hugged her. "Mom, thank you," she whispered softly, and her voice was filled with such sincere love and gratitude that Evelyn couldn't hold back her tears. She responded to Lily with a warm hug, and in that moment they both felt that they were now a united, real family. Arthur, a former millionaire who had once been obsessed with business, had been transformed. Now he was a loving father and husband who understood that family was the most valuable thing in life. He approached Lily and Evelyn and hugged them both. Their embrace was filled with nothing but love and gratitude, uniting the three of them as one. Looking at Evelyn, Arthur realized that she was not just his wife, but also his loyal ally, his heroine, his savior, and he was sure that together they could overcome any difficulties that lay ahead. Adam Ross and Ethan Hawke, who had helped in this battle, also felt joy. They saw that their hard work and self-sacrifice had not been in vain. Watching how the nanovirus they had created had healed Lily, they realized that they had to use it to help others. They decided to continue working on the nanovirus to make it even more effective and accessible to everyone. To this end, they established a foundation that would use the nanovirus to treat people in need. Finally, Arthur, Evelyn, and Lily settled down on the sofa to enjoy the sunset. The sun slowly sank below the horizon, bathing their faces in golden light. Their eyes were filled with joy because they were together, and it was forever.